Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello everyone. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. Welcome. Well, this is where I usually talk about old comics and the creators and etc. But this time I'm not going to talk about a comic specifically, but one of the creators who, although he did not have a whole lot of published work in the comics field, he cast a long shadow and had influence over a lot of influence over many of the artists who were in the comics field. Talk about Roy Krenkel. I'm going to refer mostly to this book right here. This is Swordsmen and Saurians. This is reprinting a lot of the art of Roy Krenkel. Yeah, I can see he was friends with Frank Frazetta and Al Williamson, and both of whom were very influential in comics. And he had a strong influence on them, and you can sometimes see it in some of the other later artists. Most notably, probably the earlier work of Mike Kaluta. When I look at some of his early stuff, it looks almost like Roy Krenkel work, at least to my eyes. Okay, let's take a little look in the big book of knowledge. Okay, Roy Krenkel from 1918 to 1983. He's an American illustrator specializing in fantasy and historical drawings and paintings, illustrating books and magazines and comic books. He attended the Cooper Union's Art School in 1939 and later at the Art Students League of New York. During World War II, he served in the Army, mostly in the Philippines, where I gather he filled a lot of sketchbooks full of jungle drawings there, which served him later in life. After the war, he attended the Cartoonists and Illustrators School of Burn Hogarth. Burn Hogarth, another big influential artist. And there he associated with other artists, namely some like Joe Orlando, Frank Frazetta, and Al Williamson, all of whom are big alums of EC Comics. He worked with Al Williamson and Frank Frazetta on stories for EC Comics, primarily weird science and weird fantasy. And this was not an official collaboration, however. Frazetta and Krenkel often aided Al Williamson to meet his deadlines. And there was one splash page, I wish I had a recreation of it. I've seen it, a small version of it, and it is marvelous. And it's often considered one of the best, greatest drawings of science fiction drawings in comics. And that was just for a splash page for a story. And he drew only one solo story for EC Comics, and that was unsigned. The title is Time to Leave. And he also did some of Williams' stories, He inked some of Al Williamson's stories for Marvel and American Comics Group. That was later in the 50s. He did illustrations for many science fiction magazines, and he worked on 23 paperback book covers and doing interior art for Edgar Rice Burroughs novels. And he did covers for Daw books, and he was a consultant and illustration designer for some paintings by Frank Frazetta, for Robert E. Howard's Conan books, and for the covers of Warren Publishing's Creepy and Eerie magazines. So he had, even though he did not have a large body of published work, he mostly did drawings and sketches, and even for fanzines. And that's where his biggest influence lay. So, let us go peruse the work of this fine artist, Roy Krenkel. Okay, here we get to see, because that is a large book, get a better view of the cover illustration for this book, Swordsmen and Saurians, by Roy Krenkel. This is an Eclipse Books publication from 1989. And as I said, he did mostly drawings and sketches, and this is, except for one color plate, this is all black and white. But he did do a lot of great book covers, and I wanted to share some of them, just a few of them with you right now. This is, of course, and these are all Edgar Rice Burroughs books, just a few that I've got. People at Time Forgot, you can see. The Eternal Savage. Original title, The Eternal Lover. Escape on Venus. Of course, he painted the covers and did an interior illustration for these as well, frontispiece. This here. The Land of Hidden Men, and this is probably one of the single most best known cover paintings right here. Adventure in the lost city of a secret kingdom. And Pirates of Venus. Actually looks like this illustration was looks more like it should go with the Mars books. He did some Mars books too. Okay. And then I also have this here, the Roy Krenkel Portfolio #1, Fantastic Visions. This is from 1993, and just has some more drawings. I might get it. If this doesn't go too long, I might get a look at some of that. And as I said, he had cast a long shadow, a lot of influence in illustration and comics illustration. A lot of people, and I like his, and I'm sure there are probably a lot of others think the same. I like his pen and ink, all of his black and white illustrations, actually better than his paintings, I think. He did some really nice stuff. And this in here is, well, it looks like pencil. All the shading and stuff, and it's just a magnificent piece. Very, very dark, very moody, very suggestive of, very atmospheric and suggestive of the adventure to follow. I'm not going to go through every page. There we go. This is what I was looking for. This color plate. Let's see if I can get it. And this one, I believe this is for, it's not labeled here, but I believe this is a cover for a volume of Robert E. Howard's King Call, just based on some of the stuff that's in the painting, like the tiger, the serpent men, Picts. And here's what they used for his frontispiece of his book. He did a lot of like natural settings, primitive, prehistoric settings, and jungle settings. This is, can't tell if that's supposed to be a mammoth or just an Indian elephant, Asian elephant. But you can see, and then this in here too. Again, very, very moody, a beautiful, beautiful scenery. Nice texture in that. And this one here, this is a section called Saber-toothed tigers, and you can see how saber-toothed cats. And if you look closely, you can see in his pen and ink work, you can see a strong influence to Frank Frazetta. Very, very, very similar on some of his pen and ink and pencil drawings. Both, of course, both subject matter. Here we go with the dinosaurs. Oh, this is, I missed this one. I wanted to show you. I think this was a color painting. Could be all pencil. It's hard to tell. No, it's pencil. Just a rhinoceros at leisure. It's a beautiful, beautiful drawing. Some kind of nature scene. This book is awkward. Big and awkward. Oh yeah, that's great, great one about the tiger. He was a master at conveying mood. Some more with the saber-toothed cats. And just a doodle off to the side with this plump lovely and her little kitty, which is also a saber-toothed cat. Not all the saber-toothed cats were the saber-toothed tiger. There was, from what I understand, saber teeth have evolved many times, and not just in felines. But there were a whole, we think of the saber-toothed tiger, like is depicted here, it's a Smilodon. It's neither a tiger, it's not a tiger, but it's just called a tiger. It must be for its size, bulk, strength. A lot of big kitties. There's various cavemen and primeval settings. And as I said, if you are familiar with the drawings of Frank Frazetta, you can see a strong similarity in their styles. And a lot of these are just figure studies. Oh, yeah, here's some Robert E. Howard inspired stuff. This might work better doing this right-handed. Oh yeah. And of course there are no labels to identify what specific stories these may go to, but you can see he worked up some how his stories worked up, or rather his illustrations worked up. A very loose pencil drawing an idea, tightening up of the same idea, a strong value grayscale for the pencils, and then the finished ink drawing. Swordsman. Well, the Swordsman might just as easily have been Junglemen. I bet that's gone in. Here we are. This is from an illustration from the story The Odyssey by Homer. And this one here, I have no idea what that's from, but it's just so beautiful. So, see the line work, the texturing, the very depth of the image. Beautiful rendering. It's a whole variety. Oh yeah, and I have some of his lovely, lovely ladies, and here we have a pencil, or yeah, I think it is a pencil view of a study for that one cover painting that I showed before. It's beautiful, and then something that's just kind of fun. Here we go. Probably what he's most closely. Oh, now this one. I really want to show you this one here. This illustration. This is Tarzan, of course, and Jad Balja, the Golden Lion. But that is a very, very famous drawing right there. From what I understand, for many decades, it was used as the letterhead of official Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated stationery, and was used for many things. And I want to show you this right here. It's not the figure that I'm focusing on. It's this. This on the box art is a representation of that same drawing, and this figure in this box is from 1996. So this was used for many, many decades, and is probably the single best known drawing. And here's another of Tarzan. Oh, yes, Tarzan. Some others here. This is a lovely one. Pencil drawing. I don't know where it came from. This one too. You can see a whole lot of Frank Frazetta type stuff in this. Further. And this is more Burroughs inspired stuff. This looks like Pellucidar. But there's no telling where it might have been. This is a really nice one. And this is, for him, a really loose type. One of the things I do like about it, especially in his pen and inks, is the very loose yet still seemingly tight quality of his work. Whoops, I nearly lost it. Sometimes it seems almost like scribble. Some of his sketches, of course, are scribble. But even there's a kind of scribbly quality. And I like the kind of the scumbling look in the pencil stuff for the shading. Here's another one. You can see some work up to variations to the final drawing. Oh yeah, this is a great one. Again, real nice prehistoric setting. Riding on a triceratops. That must be from Tarzan the Terrible in the land of Paul. And then probably stuff he's best known for his Barsoom stuff. More Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter of Mars. That would have been great if he could have done a comic book rather than Jesse Marsh. Not bad-mouthing Jesse Marsh at all, but still. And here's an illustration for, I think it's the Mastermind of Mars. Some really, really, really great. Different kind of creatures, and some general science fiction. And I'll take a brief look in this portfolio. A lot more of the same. More of the same. Various cavemen types. And I wonder if I can get to them. Got some more science fiction-y stuff. Yeah, listen here. It's assigned to Marcus, live long and prosper. So and it looks like it was a drawing he did just for a friend. Sent it to him, and it's a great piece. Another Barsoom. Again, how he worked up different versions, working up on the cover of The Cave Girl. And there was a couple other more science fiction ones in here, but even though I had the place marked, it's difficult to find. So I'll leave it at that. Now I hope this will bring you to, if you've never heard of Roy Krenkel, you might want to take a look into some of his stuff. Because if you find any of these old books with his cover illustrations, you found a treasure. Even if you have already read the book. You might be more familiar with the Frank Frazetta covers for these books. I think he did probably most of them. Possibly not Escape on Venus, but I think the others he has. And these are some marvelous, marvelous things. I hope you enjoyed that. It's not direct, as I said, not directly comics, very comic book related. And some wonderful, wonderful artwork. Illustrating some magnificent illustrators, some magnificent writers, adventure writers. And has been a big influence. I know he's been an influence with all his dinosaur stuff. Has been an influence on Bill Stout, who is now nowadays, in the last few decades, has been considered one of the greatest dinosaur illustrators for non-scientific illustration, for popular illustration. He does some great, great stuff. And I hope you like that. Please share, like, and share with other fantasy-filled friends. And even though it's not comics, remember, comics are art. And this is just as much good artwork as the more famous and better rewarded famous studio artists of the 20th century. Thank you very much. Comics are art. Yes, indeed.